So this has got to do with quantum computers in the quantum stage. Say I have 3 boxes, and they have names on the boxes. You know, and this box has 2 names on it. But the pigeons all look identical, and it has to, and they're trained to go to their exact box. Remember, and until the pigeon flies into the box, I've got no idea which pigeon it was. And since these 2 pigeons are trained to go to the same box, I can't tell them apart. Yeah, and that's why it's uncertain which pigeon it is out of the 2. And you said that's the correct uncertainty principle. It's uncertain which pigeon it is. If one flies in, I can't tell. If another one flies in, I can't tell. But if they both fly in, I can tell. But it's actually more correctly said to be mutually exclusive, that only one will fit in at a time. So it's more correct to Zor, in my opinion. So there never is 2 in there at once. But whenever a pigeon flies in there, which one, Deben or Pidgeot, I've got no idea. And that's got to do with the fact that the boxes are my supplied context to decide my data. And if I decide to put extra pigeons in, I can't tell them apart. But there is something you can actually do, is that I can say it could be either. And if I did a statistical analysis on my pigeons, then I possibly could work it out if I had another clue. And it's got to do with having 2 bits and deciding I have 1 more, just out of nothing. And there's machines that will attempt to do it, and they all fail. It's like a crazy over Unity trick, where you've got these things called transformers, like encryptors and transformers can look like they do it, just the same way as I can try and put 5 unknowns, algebraic unknowns, into 4 equations. And like you think, like, this got to be possible. It just sounds like an ordinary puzzle you could just solve at home. And you're right, you can. I think that you can actually solve that one, but there's got to be some truth why it eventually just fails in the end. And that's how you can just tell if a machine doesn't work right on the outset, that it's too greedy, and there's just no way it'll work if it looks like it's getting this problem in it, and there's no description of how it gets over the problem. Then you can see it probably will fail, and you can see how close to the line it gets before it fails, because you're trying to invent a bit out of nothing, and it's a booby trap. But yes. And I have had transformers, like there's a famous transform that people use in compression. It's the Burroughs-Wheeler transform, and it does a great deal of good. But what it does is it puts in a better form for entropy to take place. So everything's got to take into account entropy, or it's going to abuse the fact that you can't tell your pigeons apart if they go in the same box. What I just showed you then was the horrors of maths. That if you continue down this over Unity line, you will go mad, because there's so many ways to try and make it come true, but I'm telling you, it does not make sense. That it goes all the way to the line. Seriously, 5 equations 4, I know that you're just going to be losing bits out of your ALU. And it's every possible way doesn't work. When it's, like I said, like, what if I keep a little dit on the side of the box, and when he leaves, if I'm going to put the dit on, when the other pigeon comes back, and I maximise and double all my boxes, being the pigeon master. And like you said, there's got to be some kind of clue you can give it. What if I when I on my compressor transformer, I make it bleed out streams of 1s and streams of 0s, and it must be a 0 and a 1 at that point. It must be a 1 on all of them at once. Like that, they have to come out in unity. I want all 1s in a row, then all 0s in a row. And you can try and do that, trying to rigidify it. But I'm telling you, every single way doesn't make sense. And when I was doing this stuff, I was having fun thinking about having a cloud computer. But you've got to know that it does not make sense that it'll ever work, even though there's so many ways to try and fucking do it. How about that for fucking weird? And why it doesn't make sense is because if you get infinite compression, you'll be writing the same password for two different things with no more context supplied. If you have to get over that logical conundrum, if you plan on doing it as well, because that's the biggest thing that doesn't make sense to me as well. Mate, if I've got this squirty bitch, if I get to the junction point, I don't know which way I'm going. And if the password's picking itself which way to go, just out of you fucking deciding with your head which way it goes, that's the level of stupidity it gets to. So remember, if you want to go this route, you must get over that problem too. So if there's some swimbly way to do it, you'll have to think hard. And it's got to do with like a lack of context. So this has got to do with quantum computers in the